All right, future BCBAs, let's jump right in. Today we're tackling a big one, task list item B.8, which is all about mastering punishers. And listen, this isn't just some small detail you can gloss over. It's a huge piece of the concepts and principles domain, which, by the way, is a whopping 14% of your entire exam. So getting this right isn't just a good idea, it's pretty much non-negotiable for passing. Let's get to it.
So, have you ever seen this in your work? I bet you have. You say a simple no to one kid, and bam, the behavior stops dead in its tracks. But then you say the exact same word to another kid, and it's crickets. Like you said nothing at all. What gives? What's the difference? Well, the answer lies in the history of that little word, no. And that's exactly what we're going to break down today by exploring the different types of punishers.
Okay, let's start at the very beginning, with the most fundamental type, unconditioned punishers. That word unconditioned is your biggest clue here. It just means unlearned. These are the punishers that work right out of the box, no experience necessary, because they're wired directly into our biology.
Right. So the key idea is that these things are just naturally aversive because of our evolutionary history, our phylogeny. The classic example everyone uses is touching a hot stove. Did anyone have to sit you down and teach you that it's punishing? Of course not. The pain is immediate, and you learn instantly not to do it again. Same thing with a sudden, painfully loud sound that makes you jump. Your body is literally hardwired to avoid these things for survival.
Let's just run through a couple more quick examples you might see pop up. Things like a blaring fire alarm, the sharp pain from bonking your head, or even a super bitter taste. What do they all have in common? They're all directly tied to keeping us safe and away from harm. No learning history required, period.
So now that we have that down, let's build on it. If unconditioned punishers are all about biology, then conditioned punishers are all about our personal life experiences. This is where an individual's unique learning history, their ontogeny, really comes into play and starts to shape what works as a punisher.
The magic word here is pairing. That's the whole mechanism. Picture this. You're running a token economy, and a client loses a token for a certain behavior. Losing a token is response cost, right? A known punisher. But now, what if every single time, right before you take the token, you say the word oops? Well, that word oops used to mean nothing. It was neutral. But after pairing it over and over, it starts to take on the punishing properties of losing the token. It becomes a conditioned punisher all by itself.
And you see these everywhere, every single day. A firm tone of voice, a disappointed facial expression, that specific buzz sound on a learning app when you get an answer wrong. None of those things are naturally punishing. They get all their power because they've been consistently connected to other consequences, like losing out on something fun or having to wait longer for a reinforcer. It all comes back to that learning history.
All right, let's get into the one that I think trips people up the most on the exam, the generalized conditioned punisher. The best way to think about this is like a conditioned punisher that's been, well, supercharged. It's been through so much diverse training that it becomes this powerful, all-purpose signal.
The word to latch onto here is variety. That is the critical difference. A regular conditioned punisher might be paired with just one specific thing, but a generalized one? Oh, it's been paired with many, many different kinds of punishers. And that diverse history is exactly where it gets its power. It works in all sorts of situations.
And this brings us right back to our opening question. Why is the word no so powerful for so many people? Well, it's pretty much the perfect example of a generalized conditioned punisher. Think about it. Over a lifetime, that word no has been paired with a massive variety of other punishers, right? Losing toys, getting a timeout, social disapproval, scolding, you name it. Its power doesn't depend on any single thing anymore.
Okay, so we've got the definitions. Now let's switch gears and talk about what really matters for exam day. How are they going to test you on this? The questions are going to be all about making sure you can tell the difference between these terms when they're embedded in a scenario.
This table right here, this is your golden ticket. You need to burn this into your brain. When you read a question, just run through these questions. First, is it biological? Is it naturally aversive? If yes, boom, it's unconditioned. Done. If no, then ask, was it paired with something? If yes, you're down to 2. The final tiebreaker question is, was it paired with just one thing or was it paired with many different things? That's what separates conditioned from generalized. It's all about the breadth of that pairing history.
Okay, let's do a practice run. Here's a scenario. A toddler touches a thorny rosebush, quote, for the very first time, and yanks their hand back. What's the key phrase here? Come on, it's jumping off the page at you. For the very first time. That phrase is a massive clue.
Exactly. It has to be an unconditioned punisher.
The scenario literally tells you there is zero learning history. The pain from the thorns is just biologically punishing. That's it. End of story.
Let's try another. A teacher consistently pairs the phrase, "that's not right," with taking away a token. What process is the question describing for you step by step? They're practically drawing you a map.
Yep, this is a textbook example of creating a conditioned punisher. That phrase started out neutral, meaning nothing, but through that direct, consistent pairing with the token loss, it soaked up the punishing properties. It became a punisher itself.
All right, last one. And this one's a bit more nuanced. A supervisor's head shake works as a punisher. Why? Because it's been paired with verbal corrections and extra training modules and negative feedback. Look at that list. See the variety there. What does that immediately tell you?
That diverse pairing history is the dead giveaway. It's not just one thing, it's a bunch of different types of aversive consequences. And that is what makes the head shake a generalized conditioned punisher.
Okay, let's wrap this up and boil it all down to the absolute must-know points for the exam. This next slide is your quick and dirty memory aid for this entire section.
Here it is, your new favorite mnemonic. Unconditioned is unlearned. It's all about biology. Conditioned is connected. It's connected to one or a few things through pairing. And generalized has general power because it's connected to many different things. Unlearned, connected, general. Seriously, using this little trick will help you slice right through the tricky wording on the exam.
You know, let's end on what is probably the most important point of all. We've been talking about this in the context of an exam, but we have to remember our ethics code. We should only ever consider using punishment procedures after we've already tried reinforcement-based strategies and they haven't worked. Understanding how these things work isn't just about passing a test. It's the absolute baseline requirement for being able to use them safely, effectively, and ethically. And that's the core of our responsibility as clinicians.